Hey, it's Dr. Chalmers. We're having a little trouble with Instagram. The internet's having issues. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys again, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. A lot of the things we're going to end up talking about, I'm pretty sure are going to get banned or suppressed or have bad things happen to them on the rest of the things, including what's happening tomorrow. So what we're going to start doing on Fridays is we're going to do a little recap. Can I give you guys a little bit of recap? And we're going to start doing questions and answers and stuff like that. And since we didn't have a whole lot of that, I thought tomorrow I would start by going over what I do to treat type 2, or actually to fix type 2 diabetes. Doesn't take very long to fix. I'm going to give you guys kind of a brief overview of how to do it at home. I'll give you a brief overview of how I do it. Figuring out how I do it has a lot more to it. So, you know, a lot of people are going to be able to do it at home the way I tell you to do it. So if you have type 2 diabetes, if a friend of yours has type 2 diabetes, or you just want to figure out how to fix it, tune in tomorrow, 7:30 a.m., and we'll knock that out. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what's called a fat oxidizing state. So when we talked about calories in, calories out, how silly of a model that is, because calories in, calories out, we use carbohydrates and proteins exactly the same. They say they're exactly equal in the way they work, which is a fallacy, so don't worry about that. So don't do calories in, calories out. We talked about somatotyping. Kind of an idea, kind of research that, kind of figure that out for yourself, kind of figure out where you fit on that chart. I'm an endomorph. A lot of the things we're going to be talking about are based on endomorph function, which is not a bad thing because everybody's talking about fat loss, weight loss. That's all meso all the way to endo. The ectomorphs don't need to deal with that. If you're an ecto and you're trying to gain weight, call me. We'll talk about that for you. So what a fat oxidizing state is basically the same thing as keto, but not really. The reason it's the same is because in both states you're burning fat as a fuel source, which is why people lose so much fat, so much weight while they're in ketosis. I don't personally like being in ketosis because your breath stinks, and I have to talk to people all day long, and lots of times I'm pretty close to them. So I stay in a fat oxidizing state, which is the exact same thing, but I take a bunch of extra collagen so that my body can produce a lot more glucose. Your body will produce glucose when you're in a fat oxidizing state for your blood. Your blood cannot run off ketones. It can't run off of fat because it has no mitochondria. It still needs the sugars. So your liver will go through the process of gluconeogenesis using alanine, malate, that type of thing, to create sugar. If you give it enough empty, really loose proteins like collagen, which is bone broth, or I just take collagen as a pill, your body can break those amino acids, break that protein down into amino acids very easily, allowing the body to now have amino acids to produce glucose with. A lot of times people talk about don't fast without taking collagen, don't work out fasted unless you're taking collagen or bone broth. That's why they're telling you to do that, because your body needs the sugar and it will make it, because your brain, your blood has to carry the oxygen to your brain. So it will make it. You don't have a choice. So either it's going to tear your muscles apart or you're going to give it the amino acids it needs. So just give it the amino acids it needs. So yeah, taking collagen first thing in the morning is a great idea before you work out. However, we're going to go into this later. Working out in a fat oxidizing state or in a fasted state is a really awesome thing to do. There's a little bit of a difference between I haven't eaten for 7 hours or 10 hours and I'm fasted, and I haven't eaten for 3 days and I'm fasted. So that's really what we talk about when we talk about the fat oxidizing state. So kind of back to the calories thing, you don't burn things. There's no combustion. There's no fire inside you that you throw things in and maybe make steam heat. Like, that's not how we work. We're a chemical machine. We oxidize things. So it's kind of like I said, rust, it's not that things burst into flames, it's that we chemically change them. So that's a part of the talk. I've been using burn for a long time. I'm going to slip up and use it here and there, but we don't burn things, we oxidize them. So what happens is that when you give your body no sugars or no carbohydrates, it has to find a fuel source. So it starts burning fat as its main fuel source. And so that fat produces a lot more ATP. The energy you're actually looking for is ATP. You make a lot more ATP from fat than you do from carbohydrates or from proteins. So fat oxidizing state, or consuming this fat for energy, is really the place you really want to go. So the way you get into it is the same way you get into ketosis. And I have to walk people into this sometimes, but you stop eating sugars completely. you cut down your carbohydrates really, really low, or you cut them completely out. Carnivore is the easiest way to cut all your carbs out. But you eat lots of meat. I eat tons of desserts. Like I've shown people this picture all the time. The way I'm cutting is I'm fasting. I'm running a 47-1, but I'm eating 2 pizzas, pecan pie, and blueberry cheesecake. But it's all made. It's all from the keto recipe, so there's no sugars in them at all. There's erythritol and things like that. So that's the way you do it. So you cut all those out, and so your body goes, look, I have to have something to burn. I don't have any more carbohydrates. I don't have any more sugar. So I'm going to have to start burning fat for fuel. When you get into that state where you're burning fat for fuel, you can stop eating now. So that's how I have everybody fast. I never have somebody fast from a glucose-fed state. So if you're consuming carbohydrates or you're consuming sugars, I don't think you should fast. I think you should, even for like a day, I think you should work yourself into a fat oxidizing state so that your body's burning fat for its major fuel source. Then you should stop eating. The way that I do my fasting with people is we'll move them into fat oxidizing state. So I'll walk them into eating, all the good meats and all the good proteins and all the good fats and stuff like that, cut out all their carbohydrates. And then once they've been doing that for a day or two, then we have them skip breakfast. Then we have them skip lunch. And then once they get used to eating once a day, which is what I usually run, which is a 22-2 or 23-1 fasting schedule, then we have them skip that meal. And that's pretty easy. Once you use eating once a day and you don't eat then, it's easy to go into a longer fast. Whether you want to do a 2-day, 3-day, 5-day fast, it doesn't really matter. You can get into that. There's other ways that if you need to that we can suppress hunger. We'll talk about that another time. But that's basically how we get into the fat oxidizing state, is we just basically stop eating carbohydrates, stop eating sugars, eat more fat, eat more meats, clean fats, no omega-6s. Omega-6s and seed oils, by the way, caveat, that's where we get the majority of our lipid peroxidation. Lipid peroxidation is one of the worst free radical issues we face. That's the one that, from research, is showing a higher tendency of converting LDL to oxidized LDL. Oxidized LDL is actually the thing that creates plaquing and damage in your arteries, not LDL. So you got to watch that one. If you're not pulling those labs, I would pull the oxidized LDL labs. If your doctor doesn't know what they're doing, call us. We'll do it for you. But anyway, so once you move into that fat oxidizing state, you can start fasting. The other problem we get into is that and this is a big fasting thing, and we'll talk about fasting more in detail later. You need to supplement while you're fasting. Just drinking water for 3 days is a bad idea. Because yes, your body's burning fat for your ATP, for your fuel source, but where are you getting your micronutrients, your CoQ10, your methylated B vitamins? Where are you getting your omega-3 fatty acids? Where are you getting all of the other nutrients your body needs? These chemicals aren't stored. Where are you getting the iodine? Where are you getting the selenium? Where are you guys getting all these nutrients? You need to supplement while you're fasting because your body needs 2 things. It needs ATP, it needs energy, and it needs nutrients. Well, if you're in a fat oxidizing state, you've got plenty of fat on your body. The ATP creation from fat is totally done with. You guys don't need to worry about that at all. However, you do need to worry about the nutrient level. So you need to supplement as you're doing this. The supplementation is really what makes this whole thing really, really functional. And we'll go through everything I'm taking. And I'm going to say this a lot, I know I'm taking more than you guys need. I treat viruses and bacterial infections and things like this all day, every day. So I take a lot of things to prepare and strengthen my immune system so I can be around sick people all day, every day and be this close to them and not get sick. So there's things that I'm taking that you don't need, but I will go through everything I'm taking as we go along. But that's really the long and short of it is it's not that hard. Now, tomorrow, like I said, I'm going to talk about how I fix diabetes. You guys need to start following me on Twitter because there's going to be a lot of things I talk about, like cholesterol, like type 2 diabetes, like COVID, like the hormones. There's a lot of things I'm going to be talking about that doesn't make pharmaceutical companies happy, and so it's going to get suppressed. So the only place I know that has a little bit more freedom of speech is Twitter. So you guys jump on Twitter, Dr. Chalmers 1, follow me there. If we have internet and phones today the phones are down. How weird is that across the nation? Interesting. But anyway, follow me there. Look at the fat oxidizing state. Look at the ketosis stuff. If you guys are trying to figure out how to get into the fat oxidizing state, it's basically the same thing as ketosis. You just take a little bit more collagen and it should balance that out. The other big thing to know about both ketosis and a fat oxidizing state, if you get your blood work done, your body's making glucose. Your glucose very well might be higher in the mornings. It's called the dawn effect. So I eat 0 carbohydrates, 0. And, well, very, very few. And I'm eating them at a 47-1. So I only eat once every 2 days. My blood sugar sits about 110 in the morning, 105 to 110. I have a lot of blood, and it needs a lot of energy, and I've missed it so that my brain is now working on glucose that my body produces. So also, when you're doing this, make sure your doctor understands how biochemistry works. Your labs are going to look a lot different if you're in a fat oxidizing state. You will still be healthy, but your doctor's going to think you're dying. Again, fat oxidizing state and glucose fed state are 2 totally different chemical systems. One's like running a diesel engine, and one's like running a gasoline engine. They both make the car move, but they're super different systems. You have to be aware of that and how they work. Otherwise, you're going to mess people up. So if your doctor is not familiar with metabolic function and doesn't understand what is actually going on in the labs, you need to work with somebody who actually understands what the labs mean. Lots of the doctors just understand, if this turns red, I give this drug. They don't know why it turns red. They don't know what they're actually chemicals they're looking at. I deal with this all the time. Whenever I have athletes come in and their doctors are like, oh, you're going to die. Your blood work is terrible. And I look at it and I'm like, do you work out this day? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, that explains everything on this lab. So that's the thing. Understanding your biochemistry from the labs is really important. And I'll go over those labs as we go through. It's just really hard for me to do this 10 minutes. I'm trying real hard to keep it in 10 minutes. So watch these things. Like I said, Fridays, we're going to start doing questions and answers, so we can go through that. I'll spend a little bit more time doing questions and answers on Fridays with you guys. But tune in tomorrow, and we'll go over type 2 diabetes and how we work on it. Thanks. Talk to you guys later.